Hi, I'm James. In recent weeks, since Liberation Day on April 2nd, we have quite clearly seen that Trump, gotta love him, is still very concerned about how the market responds to his policies. Now, in other words, what most call the Trump put is still in play. Basically meaning, as the market goes down, recently often due to Trump's own comments, Trump will then say or do something that will underwrite the market, providing a floor to the market by providing some sort of good news as and when is required. And we saw this just a week after Liberation Day's sort of tariff debacle, where he was first sending out treats, it's a good time to buy, or stay calm, and then basically paused all reciprocal tariffs, bar China, which may have been the goal from the beginning, to focus primarily on trade terms with China. Although then 2 weeks later, which is about a month ago today, after things got increasingly worse in the rhetoric and the volatility, he then took the biggest back step to cut the majority of China tariffs for 90 days as well. So we were left with roughly 10% tariffs everywhere and about 30% on China, but somewhat nowhere near Liberation Day's levels. Then just a couple of days ago on Friday, last week, we saw Trump again begin the rhetoric threatening 50% tariff on the EU to begin days away on the 1st of June, as negotiations were going nowhere. But then by today, Monday 26th, he's basically agreed to hold off on that until July 9th, giving more time for negotiations, etc. So again, we have many threats and bluster, but ultimately still playing his anchoring game of saying something extreme one day and then a few days later pulling back to something more reasonable. So while there is clearly still uncertainty where Trump's tariffs will land after the various pauses expire and negotiations play out, what I think we can, hopefully, continue to rely on is Trump's put and his game, if we can call it that, of aggressively threatening far more severe actions, kind of immediately, before then agreeing to something more reasonable over, the coming days. And overall, I kind of see this as good news, especially for long-term investors, and why I consider things far better today in terms of stability terms and in terms of uncertainty than when I put out my previous video on this topic, suggesting the market reaction was overdone. I'll click up here to watch that. Mind you, at that point, the market was down about 20%, so it was obviously a bit better time to be buying at that point than it is today. And of course, in a game of predicting the future, where it's impossible to call it perfectly, it's nice to be close to right on the bigger moves throughout the year, as all your gain for a year can be made in just a few days. Now that's the past though. What to do today? I'm remaining long, although a little less long than I was a month ago, as sadly it makes far less sense for the market to trade much higher from here, while the uncertainty around all of his tariffs still remains. So I see the market somewhat trapped between around the 5,700 to 6,000 point until the most important tariff deals are made for the EU or China, primarily China. As I see, the market bears, which have their fingers rather burnt, are going to find it far too difficult to press their shorts hard after being crucified a few weeks ago, and ultimately bulls have limited reasons to be aggressively long with the level of uncertainty that remains today. Thus I see a more boring market trading on news for now, with the potential for good or bad headlines around tariffs on a near daily basis. So it makes more sense to be long for me, as the Trump put, the whole point of today's video, is still in play. So any big down move on a bad tariff headline can be easily undone with a Trump reversal /deal/good headline, as we've seen evidenced repeatedly over the last 6 weeks or so. So thanks for watching today's video. If you like this kind of information, then please consider hitting the old thumbs up button and subscribing, as new videos to come every few days. And please ask any questions in the comments below, and I'll get back to you. The preceding content is informational only and based on information available when created.
It is not an offer or solicitation, nor is it tax or legal advice. It does not consider your financial circumstances and objectives and may not be suitable for you.